friends. Welcome to the inaugural edition of World Championship Cage Fighting Television's Wednesday Night Mayhem. Brought to you by Hell's Balls Fightwear and Syndicate Drugs. Tonight we've got a lot to go over. We've got to go through WCC III Evolution, the event that happened last week, garnishing a great 90 rating and had some outstanding fights on it. We're going to announce the award winners of the night, go over some of the big fights. Then we're going to go on and look at this weekend's events. WCC IV, New Blood, tournaments going on, WCC V, both those events happening this weekend. We're going to analyze the tournaments that are going on in the 135 and 145 pound brackets for the new guys coming into the tournaments. Also, we've got some big title fights happening Saturday night. Also, we'll be having a huge main event on Friday night with Brandon Lovelatty, our welterweight champion here in the WCC, versus the welterweight champion of Undisputed Online Championship, one of the fellow orgs here in Los Angeles. Should be a huge fight between well-balanced fighters. 6-0, 6-1. Big fight happening that night, Friday night. Well, let's go ahead and get started with our review of last weekend's WCC III Evolution. Evolution ended up being a night of knockouts, with several of the fights ending quickly and early in the first round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights into the first round, actually, of the night. Oscar Diaz, Lamar Goods, and Phil Ayler will all win Knockout of the Night awards. Couldn't really pick out a fight of the night. And our submission of the night will go to our still reigning 170-pound champion, Paulo Edel, as he secures a guillotine from the bottom over Alfredo Casperone. Ended up being a great fight, but Edel just outmatches Casperone. Other highlights of the night included Kevin Florian getting his 4th win, this time not in such quick fashion as Lady Pendant puts up quite of a fight. Fact was clear after 3 rounds that Florian had definitely won this fight. He moves on and becomes a serious contender in the lightweight division here in the WCC. Phil Ayler, as I mentioned, wins the Knockout of the Night award. This is a fighter who seems to either be very hot or very cold. This time knocks out Bing Bong in only 14 seconds it takes to send the man to the mat. Oscar Diaz, who has been the #1 hyped fighter in the 135-pound division for quite some time, has now fought Jackie Jones, one of the newer additions to the WCC bantamweight division. Diaz dominates this fight, only takes 2 minutes to knock out Jackie Jones. He also wins the Knockout of the Night of the Award, like I said, and definitely now moves up to be the #1 contender in that 135-pound division. Jack Merle and Oscar Diaz are already scheduled to fight coming up later this month. Well, that's it. Evolution, as I said, was a night of knockouts. 3 Knockout of the Night awards, 1 Submission of the Night award. Going out, as I said, Oscar Diaz, How Long, Phil Ayler, and our Submission of the Night award going to Paulo Edel. Moving along, we've got great bracket analysis coming up here. On your screen, you've got the matchups for the 135-pound New Blood tournament, where we're bringing some of the newest fighters in the game in to bolster up our 135-pound and 145-pound divisions coming up this weekend. So on screen, the 135-pound division matchups. In the top bracket, you have our first matchup, Damian Black versus Hugo Chavez. Each of these fighters comes into the cage, very little experience. Chavez, though, a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and expects to be a force in this fight. In the other half of that bracket, Jack Napier Jr. faces up against Carnival Grewal. These fighters look to be very, very competitive. Napier Jr., the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. Grewal has a white belt, but looks to be a very well-rounded fighter. In the bottom half of the bracket, we have Mutine Roshi versus Rich Ringles. This is another matchup between brown belt and white belt. Rushi being the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. However, Rich Ringles being experienced and strong boxer. On the other side of the bottom half of the bracket, we have Matt Chatham versus Luden Sween. Neither of these fighters too experienced in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, both holding a white belt. Chatham a striker, Swain a wrestler. We should have an interesting matchup here. Other huge fights going on tonight and New Blood begins. Roger McGibbon versus Doug Partey. This is a 205-pound bout between very big top contenders. Pedrick Keane at 170 pounds versus Julio Escobar. These two are the two welterweights who will be looking to gain that #1 spot versus Paulo Edel here in the future. And in our main event, two champions collide in a non-title bout here in the WCC. The 185-pound middleweight champion Brandon Lovelady, sponsored by Syndicate Drugs and Mary Jane's Medicinals. Fighting out of the red corner, Brandon Lovelady. And in the red corner, managed by Sam Benton, sponsored by Elite Clothing and 2K MMA Nutrition, your 185-pound middleweight champion from Undisputed Online Championship, Sam the Buzzsaw Benton. These two fighters are going to square off in an absolute 5-round war. This fight is, yes, scheduled for 5 rounds. Lovelady will be looking to use a more impressive Muay Thai, wrestling, and also will probably use his ground game, as 4 of his 6 wins have come by submission. He'll be fighting the black belt in Sam Benton, though. 5 of his 6 wins have come by submission and has no loss. This is a fight between 2 of the very top fighters in Los Angeles today, and we're looking for it to be a great war and main event. That, folks, is New Blood Begins. The next night, on Saturday night, New Blood again goes into action. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce our new sponsor, Slaughterhouse Bookies.